to All People's Church, Unitarian Universalist. My name is Laurie McKitka, and I will be your co-celebrant for this morning's service. Our Sunday service is a shared time of worship for all present as we gather for music, spoken words, a time of reflection and inspiration as a religious community. Let us come together in a spirit of compassion and respect for ourselves and others attending this service. If you're a visitor today and haven't signed in, please do so. There's a visitor's table by the front door. Signing in will give us the opportunity to acknowledge your visit and place you on our mailing list to receive our weekly emails and our monthly newsletter. This morning, we welcome Reverend Brooke Dooley to our pulpit. Brooke is the Associate Pastor to Youth and Young Adults at Friends Congregational Church, United Church of Christ in College Station, Texas. Brooke is a graduate of Bright Divinity School, where she has the pleasure of being classmates with our own Reverend Laurie. Brooke is also a drag king, having performed as Brock Bottoms for several years. To some, the two professions seem to have no place to build a home together, but Brooke tells us she wouldn't be the pastor she is today without Brock to be sharing this with, and they are very honored to be sharing this space with us today. Before we continue with our service, please note these reminders and announcements. After service today, please join us in Coleman Hall for a delicious lunch prepared and served by our children and youth. The cost of a plate is $5 and can be paid with cash or card. And this reminder comes from Rain Brady, our RE coordinator. We also, a church council meeting, September 29th. Council heads are expected to show held after service. That's what it says. You're expected to be there.
Beloved, look in the mirror at the sacred canvas of your existence.
So many parts of me have been filled in by hands that were not mine.
Pick up the brush, beloved. Your own colors you can add and let the world see you shine.
I am my own special creation.
No one can take that from you.
My reflection is a masterpiece. We now invite you to rise in body or spirit for the chalice lighting, opening hymn, and spoken affirmation. Our chalice words are from Leonard Mason. We affirm the unfailing renewal of life, rising from the earth and reaching for the sun. All living creatures shall fulfill themselves. We affirm the steady growth of human companionship, rising from ancient cradles and reaching for the stars. People the world over shall seek the ways of understanding. We affirm a continuing hope that out of every tragedy, the spirits of individuals shall rise to build a better world. Please join now in the singing of our opening hymn, the hymn of the month for September, number 368, Now Let Us Sing. Now join me in our spoken affirmation. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve others in community, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with creation. Thus do we covenant with one another. You can sit down. Now the young and young at heart are now invited to come forward for our story for all ages here at the front of the chancel. And we do have kids coming. They're just on their way, right? Oh, okay.
Wow. Thanks. It's going to take forever to get off. Hello, everyone. Howdy. Well, it's really good to see all of you this morning. My name is Brooke, or Brock, both work, and I brought a story with me today because, as you can see, I am a drag king, and I have a book where we can learn a little bit more about drag queens, and it's a fun book because it's also a song. So should you feel led to sing along with me, that would be great. Do whatever feels comfortable to you, and the young at heart out in the congregation are also welcome to sing. So, yes, this is called The Hips on the Drag Queen Go Swish, Swish, Swish. Here we go. The hips on the drag queen go swish, 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 swish. The hips on the drag queen go swish, 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 all through the town. The hair on the drag queen goes up, 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 up. The hair on the drag queen goes up, 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 all through the town. The shoes on the drag queen go stomp, 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 stomp. The shoes on the drag queen go stomp, 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 all through the town. The jewels on the drag queen go bling, 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 bling. The jewels on the drag queen go bling, 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 all through the town. The shoulders on the drag queen go shimmy, 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 shimmy. The shoulders on the drag queen go shimmy, 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 all through the town. The cheeks on the drag queen go blush, 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 blush. The cheeks on the drag queen go blush, 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 all through the town. The fingers on the drag queen go snap, 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 snap. The fingers on the drag queen go snap, 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 all through the town. The mouth on the drag queen goes blah, 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 blah. The mouth on the drag queen goes blah, 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 all through the town. The dance of the drag queen goes twirl, 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 twirl. The dance of the drag queen goes twirl, 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 all through the town. That was great. I'm so glad that y'all could join me today. I hope you have a wonderful day. That is a very cool transformer, so I don't blame you.
Back to their, whatever it's called. Our offertory words are by Victoria Weinstein, aka Peace Bang. The purpose of the church is to encourage all who gather there to grow more generous in spirit and in action. This is the great end of all the world's faith traditions, to bring the human being closer to the divine by acts of creation and compassion. We now take an offering that allows us to exercise that all-important generosity. Sorry, I can't see the words. I'm sorry, I did not memorize this. All-important generosity of spirit, an offering that will support this self-supporting church and its many ministries. Let us now give freely and generously an offering to sustain and strengthen our shared religious community, a community of memory, hope, faith, and love. For we are now the keepers of its flame that burns for justice, its dream of beloved community, its vision of a world made whole. It is our custom to share the undesignated cash offerings that are collected each week. We do this on a quarterly basis for a nonprofit or charitable organization. Our Share the Plate recipient for the third quarter is Eastside Ministries. If you prefer, donations can be made using the QR code that is on the back of your order of service. The gifts of the congregation will be most gratefully received. Will the ushers and the choir please come forward?
A Love Poem to Queers by Reverend Anna Bladell and M. Jade Kaiser. Queer lovers who long for healing, who ache with exhaustion, who have been alone for too long, who know deep in our bones how very good it is, how very much it hurts to keep living, to keep loving. Queer lovers, let's remember that which is strange, that which is met with disgust, that which is deemed incompatible, illegal, unworthy, is the very site of the sacred and a source of holiness. Queer lovers, we know far better than they how to live in unlivable places, how to pray in spirit-drenched ways in the midst of everyday evil, how to hold each other through impossible choices and inevitable loss. Queer lovers, there is power in staying and fighting for our lives. There is power in leaving for the sake of our lives. Through all the noise and hate and shallow misunderstandings, through all the competing voices telling us what we have to do to be, we, dear lovers, know what we need. Listen, listen, listen. Queer lovers, we are birthed from something wildly holy. We are made from and for a dream of flourishing, crossing time and space. Our ancestors labored for us to make this possible. The dykes who danced cheek to cheek, the sissies who marched arm in arm, the queers who found God in each other, in alleyways and choir lofts and quiet glances across crowded rooms, the trans godmothers with bricks in their hands and the strength of softness in their flesh. While police raided, while the church raged, while death and destruction have their way, so too do life and love. Because they knew, because we knew, disconnecting from delight is deadly. Trusting in delight is a necessary spiritual practice of survival. We, queer lovers, make a future possible. We need each other, and we have each other. We have and are enough.
At this time in our service, we pause to honor and to give time and attention to those things most important to us. We gather here for healing and for peace in our hearts, and to honor our time together with the shared stories and news from the congregation. Each week, there is a journal outside the entrance to the sanctuary where you can write a message of memory or hope before the service. We honor these messages by lighting 3 candles here next to our chalice. Also, at any time during our service, you are welcome to come forward and light a candle in our meditation center here at the side of the chancel. In our book of memory and hope this morning, we have been asked to remember, contact Anna Evans, right there, if you know of someone who needs a brand new stroller or car seat. And I'm not sure who wrote this, but please remember my sister, Ann Hughes, who died in February this year. She would have been 91 on her birthday, September 17. Our meditation words are from Reverend Scott Taylor. In this space carved out by our quiet connection, we give thanks for the many forms of love that have formed us. The love of family that brings us into being, allows us to bloom, and then sends us on our way with the reminder that we can return no matter what. The love of partnered hearts that teach us to trust and help us know that who we are does not end at the barrier of our own skin. The love of friends who help us feel seen and sing our song back to us when we cannot hear it with our ears alone. The love of community that bathes us in belonging and calls us to see the needs of others as our own. And the greatest love, the love that will not let us go, even in our fear, even in our failure, even when we are lonely or lost. Love invites us home, friends. If we listen, it is doing so even today. We pause at this time to honor and to hold and to honor the sorrows and celebrations among us, including those deeply felt but left here unspoken. Let us pause for a moment of silent meditation, and then Misha will lift our hearts with music.
Good morning. When Reverend Lori asked me if I would be interested in offering a sermon on the spiritual aspects of drag, I did what I always tend to do, which is focus exclusively on other people's work. I convinced myself that these acclaimed voices in the field are best suited to provide perspective. So I combed through drag histories and methods and personal testimonies until I realized that it was a futile effort to fit the entire history of drag into a 15-minute sermon. Because the truth is that drag has always existed. There are, of course, a wide range of sources available about the cultural significance of drag, with the 1990 documentary Paris is Burning being at the top of that list. If you haven't seen it, it is a prerequisite for understanding and appreciating all that exists within drag culture today. It is a historically significant piece of history that details the lives of the Black and brown, queer, trans, and gender nonconforming legends of the New York ballroom circuit in the 1980s. It tells the story of the queer people of color who walked in categories often closed off to them in the outside world, like realness, runways, face, and body. We are incredibly lucky to have their stories preserved so that younger generations can know exactly who to thank for voguing, shade, reading, spilling tea, and what it means to shine in a world that tries to extinguish you. But what I began to realize while preparing this sermon is that the most sacred tradition, in my opinion, that has been passed down since the beginning of human history is storytelling and personal narrative. So the experiential aspects of drag are limitless and ever-changing and unique to each person telling that story. And I decided that the best thing for me to do today would be to share with you my own drag story. In Antoine de Saint-Exupéry's book, The Little Prince, he wrote that all grown-ups were once children, but only few of them remember it. This sentence encapsulates so much of what drag has meant to my life, to my healing journey, and to my lived experiences as a queer person. I tried to remember when I first understood the concept of drag, because it is so subjective. Is it even possible to compose a concise definition of drag, something that is far from monolithic? From the moment we are born, and often even before, some families gather to reveal the sex organs of their child, and this is when the drag show begins. The blue confetti falls and the pink smoke clears, and there's a mad dash to project cultural and societal expectations of gender performance onto that child. These are learned behaviors that can be shaped through either shame or affirmation based on a perceived correct performance of drag. And it has a profound effect on our imagination and our playfulness. I didn't have very many friends growing up. I was often alone as a child, but I was never lonely. My curiosity and imagination created worlds that transcended the limitations of my own life, and it filled me with an unending sense of wonder. My body felt like a canvas for my former beauty queen mother's makeup drawer and my Nana's eclectic clip-on costume jewelry. When Disney's Tarzan came out in 1999, I loved crawling around shirtless with my long hair unbrushed and imagining I was in a jungle. I stared at the television captivated by movies like Mrs. Doubtfire, The Birdcage, and Victor Victoria, without any thoughts in my head that what I was seeing was in any way obscene. I found it liberating, and I didn't even know it was drag. Theater became my life as a child and my first and truest love. I dreamt of little besides being on a stage and telling a story, of sharing a body and a consciousness with an unlimited Rolodex of characters and creatures, uninhibited by the perceived limitations of the world that existed beyond the stage lights. The first time I performed in drag on stage was when I was 15 years old in a high school production of The Music Man. The cast was short, a few actors to play the male characters, and I enthusiastically volunteered to glue a mustache to my face. It was a delightful experience, and I think about this child with such tender pride, because very shortly after that, my life changed. And it took a very long time to find that beautiful, curious little daydreamer again. Shortly after I turned 16, I became fully aware of my queerness. And as a child raised in a church saturated with early 2000s evangelical purity culture, I was led to believe that the sacredness of my soul was now called into question. I no longer knew how to exist in my body, and I lacked the support systems to guide me. So I did what so many children do, and I found help in the wrong places and with the wrong people. And without any frame of reference for a healthy queer relationship, I was slowly eaten alive. I forgot how to be a child and instead became who I needed to be in a world that was no longer safe for me. When I dressed up and performed, people stared, but I no longer wanted to be noticed. I cut off all of my long hair because someone told me it was beautiful, and I began hurting my body because I blamed it for what happened. And when I graduated from high school, I abandoned the thing that I loved most in the world and retired from the spotlight. A few years later, a friend of mine was producing a variety show in Dallas and was short a performer. I was asked if I wanted to try performing in drag, and my initial thought was that I didn't have a clue how to do drag. But the fingertips of the curious child in me, the one who I had not yet fully learned to unbury from the rubble of my unhealed trauma, gently grazed my face and reminded me that what I knew was already everything I needed. I performed under a different name at that time, but I remember it effortlessly. I went home and I made a pair of tearaway pants. I walked out in front of a room of strangers, and with the tearing of that Velcro, something profound began. In Winchester, England, there's a cathedral with an immense wall of stained glass on the western side of the building. I had the privilege of witnessing this when I was a teenager. In the 17th century, when war broke out, the cathedral was pillaged, and the window, with its many stories and faces of saints, was shattered. The people of the town, who in their grief were unable to part with the window, collected all of the pieces of the broken glass. And after a few years, they decided that instead of replacing the window, they would put the pieces back together, indiscriminately connecting the glass like a mosaic. It's still the same window, but it will never look the same. You can still pick up the pieces, I've learned, and make something extraordinary out of it. That night in Dallas, I began to pick up the broken pieces of what was once a curious, queer daydreamer, and I started to put them back together in that same way. Suddenly, I could wear pink lingerie, glue on a beard that fell down to my knees, and dance to Shania Twain's "Man, I Feel Like a Woman." And I laughed. I laughed because it was absurd. I laughed because it distorted people's understanding of gender and sex. And I laughed because people were looking at my body and it didn't terrify me. I wasn't yet ready to live so unapologetically as myself. But in drag, I had given myself permission to reclaim the audacious expressiveness of the brave queer kid who still lived in my body. Drag is healing. Rock bottom became my younger self's fairy godmother. Brock quiets the doubts, soothes the wounds, and affirms the curiosity of the parts of me I thought I would never see again. Brock is a revolutionary whose refusal to adhere to hegemonic gender expression is simultaneously an act of protest and an act of love to any queer person who has ever been told that they are anything less than astonishing. Brock is the wonder I felt in my heart when I imagined as a child what it might feel like to embody the entire world. Brock is a thread in the tapestry of my life, reminding me that I am intimately woven alongside all of who I have been and everything I have yet to be. This is a love letter to drag. This is a love letter to Brock Bottom, who was with me when I pulled that hurt teenager I used to be out from under the broken stained glass and told her I was sorry for leaving her alone for so long. This is a love letter to her and the fragments of her face that I still see when I glue on a lash or attach a rhinestone or convince myself that you can indeed perform and drag as the iceberg that sank the Titanic and no one can stop you. This is a love letter to the ancestors, to the elders, and to the house mothers who took in their queer children off the streets and dressed them up for the ball like the princesses that they were. And finally, this is a love letter to myself for being brave enough to pick up those costume pieces of my life, to grieve that they were broken, but to know that we are not meant to be fragmented people. So I am continuing to put myself back together again. And when I have doubts, I remember that there is always, always glue in the dressing room. It's been an honor to be with you today. And friends, thank you. I invite us now to rise in either body or in spirit to join in our closing hymn, number 131, Love Will Guide Us.
Our chalice words are by Frederick E. Gillis. May the love that overcomes all differences, that heals all wounds, that puts to flight all fears, that reconciles all who are separated, be in us and among us, now and always.
Beloved friends, remember that you are a wonder to behold. Should the world ever try to convince you otherwise, shine brighter, take up space, add a rhinestone or 500. The world needs to see you. Go in peace.
The service has ended. We invite all of you to please join us in Coleman Hall for a delicious lunch provided and served by our children and youth. This is a fundraiser, so the cost of a plate is $5 that can be paid with cash or card.